Well, I wish I'd kind of recorded the last bit because it was bloody hard, but that's the reason I didn't record it. I really needed to think. Last week I gave up trying to design these in my head, and so I went on to SketchUp when I was at home and did some proper designs with the help of a mate who I've recently got on the Aussie Makers group, who does stairs for a living, and he's given me a few tips to make these stringers. So this is the left stringer that I've done. The hardest part is working out these angles up here and then trimming it to actually fit this floor because it's nowhere near even. The housing joints are nowhere near even, and it took quite a lot of buggering around to get it right. The good news is, apart from one small difference here, I've now been able to just trace out underneath this one to get my cuts for the other stringer. And the reason that the top cut's different is because this housing joint is a lot deeper than this due to the bracket. Well, looks like we're getting there though. It's been challenging. I won't put too much more up. I might film some of the cuts, but if you want to know how to do these stairs, lots of much better resources. This is the first time I'm doing things as usual, and to learn how to do this, it does take some research. So have a crack at that before trying something like this yourself. Hopefully mine will be level. Right, so I've measured and marked out all of the mortises that I need for the steps to go into, and I'm going to use an MDF template. This is an off-cut 9mm MDF. That's the mortar size I need, and then this boundary is where I actually have to cut because it's going to make up for the edge of my router. So if I trim all that out, hopefully cutting these mortises won't be terribly difficult, he says now. Alright, she's pretty rough, but these only have to be fairly rough mortises. Let's see if we can do this. You know what though? I think I'm going to get a scrap piece and do a test first. Right, well I put a straight edge along there and did some cleaning with the router. That's my test little mortise. And that's a step going into test mortise. Nice and tight. Don't break the jig after you just made it, James. Right, now we can use this to do the stringers, and that's a little bit scary. Right, that's the first mortise cut. Let's test. Snug. Having cut that first one with the router here, it was obvious that was going to be far too much effort, so I've decided to hog out most of it with a Forstner bit instead of doing the whole thing by route. Should be much faster. Great, now I can just clean up the rest of it with the router and get it to the correct depth, which is about 20 millimeters. Fortunately, that's about 18 or 19 millimeters. So I was able just to use that height as the guide for how deep I needed to go. I also made these two blocks, which are the correct gap that I need to maintain all the way around, and that way I can put them in, line them up, and make sure that my spacing is even all the way around the mortise. Right, so my stringers are done. I'm pretty happy with how they came out. I just need to do a little bit of tinkering on them to make sure that they're level on these very uneven bricks. But I'm going to do a dry fit first with the steps. Steps are the same 45 by 240 tread as the stringers are made out of. That's exactly 100 centimeters across there. I've gone 2 centimeters in on each side, which means I have 2.5 centimeters of wood left here, making that -5. In other words, these treads need to be 95 centimeters wide. I'm going to cut them a little bit longer than that, dry fit it all together, and then again, just make sure I can get this nice and square. Excellent. I can feel this is sloping down this way a little bit because I need to trim a tiny bit off the front there. But a tiny slope will actually be good, especially inwards, as it will help with water and give you more grip as you go on the steps. Now I'm double checking that, and it's sitting at just over 101. So I cut this 1 centimeter too long, and that was a nice double check step. Now I can trim that down to its final length, and that should be nice and square. I want to do a massive shout out to a friend of mine, Ash, who is a professional stair builder by trade and the only one of the moderators on our new group, Aussie Makers Group. Check us out at Facebook. Who knows what he's doing with wood and isn't just making it up like the rest of us. He gave me a few really good tips on this project and I'm very thankful, and one of them is called a spreader bar. So this thin piece of threaded steel galvanized rod, it's 8mm. I got to drill 2 holes under the bottom step. And what it's designed to do is basically just hold those stringers in from the side so that they can't spread. Even though these are going to be screwed in, a bit of extra support. So I'm going to drill all of my holes actually, all 3 pilot holes for each step. I'm using 100mm bugle screws to put those in. And below there and there, I'm going to put in the hole for this, which will just have a nut. It's going to be sunk into the other side. You have got to be effing kidding me. In my entire driver set that I got, I'd never checked because I didn't think it would happen, there isn't actually a driver bit for a bugle screw. It's a 5mm hex. I do, however, have a 5mm Allen wrench. No, I'm not going to do this by hand because I also have this little beast. Couldn't be bothered going to the shop to buy one, although I will in the future. For today, let's make our own bit. Success! That's a win. For the spreader rod, I've marked a halfway spot, about an inch below this bracket here. Make sure it's the same place on both sides. So I've widened those holes up just to make it a nice easy fit, and now I just got to put a countersink on this side for the nut. Because I don't have my center dot, I'm just going to make a really quick guide jig for the Forstner bit. Right, this should be one of the easier jobs. Time for assembly. All my bits are cut, all my holes are drilled, except for a little bit of piloting to do through onto the treads. Getting to the end, hopefully it all fits. Now this is the one you'd be worried about making sure it actually does go on. And I've cut these in the right direction. I think we got victory. Now, as we said, just going to extend these pilot holes into the battens as far as my drill bit will allow. I think I am actually going to countersink these. Now we test the homemade drill bit. Clutch all the way up. That's worked really nicely. Obviously impact driver would be better, but I can't use this drill bit in that impact driver. It's got the quick release on it. That looks awesome. We'll flip it over and do the other side. Decadent, but having 3 drills actually really helps. I got this one for free off Facebook. The torque on this Makita drill is amazing. It's actually wrenching my arm around getting those things in. That shouldn't fall apart. Score 1 for the homemade drill bit. Time for a rod. Beautiful. Well, that was pretty much it for assembly. Goes together nice and easy. Now we make sure it's actually flat, level and safe. Moment of truth. Oh, that's not light. Which is a good thing, I suppose. Oh yeah. Oh, booyah. That's not going anywhere. Oh. Mate, look at this. First time I've built steps, and they're pretty good. Okay, small secret time. I knew that was going to work because before I started bolting them all together, I had done a dry fit, and I did have to shave bits off here and here and here to make it work. This is real world, not YouTube magic and bullshit. I am a novice. This did take a lot of buggering around. I've been here for 4 days on this job now, and it's taken, well, 2 days longer than I thought it did, which is probably a good general rule of thumb when you're doing something that you really don't know what you're doing. However, I've managed to save my parents thousands of dollars to have this done professionally. No, it's not as good a job, but for the cost of materials and some of my time, I think it's going to be more than acceptable. Dad's going to come back and finish the painting. Don't know if he's going to paint these or not. There's only one little job actually, I just remembered. Apart from securing here to here, I'm just going to install the last little tread and we can call this done. Excellent. Oh mate, that is so good. I'm just so happy that this is nice and level. I said, I have cheated. I've made sure this is level. But just as some proof, there's my nice bubble in the middle. And considering the unevenness of this ground, that's brilliant. It wasn't intentional, though I don't mind it. These steps actually slope backwards a little bit, which I think for their function and safety, that does give you a bit of extra grip, and for the water runoff, it's going to help too, because it's going to drip this way. It's not huge, it's only a couple of degrees. It's still comfortable enough to walk up. I'm also glad that I went to 3 steps rather than 2. This one's a little bit low, but it would have been a big step for the little legs for my nephew and niece if I hadn't done otherwise. Alright, let's secure these in, get that bottom on, clean up, and go home before wifey kills me for being away for too long. Alright guys, thanks a lot. I'll see you next time, back in the workshop I hope, for a more traditional type product. Though this carpentry was fun, I sure as hell wouldn't want to do it every day. Sorry Ash. See ya.